Welcome, welcome, massive welcome crew to another installment of theishden. You maybe I wonder where it is. It's been a while. It's been a long minute. COVID pandemic come and declare seized in Jamaica. Place open back and we just find back a footing back on this thing. Alright, so welcome again, and it's your partners in righteousness, Napoleon and Robert, just trying to rekindle this little conversation and vibes around masculinity and the varying things concerning masculinity, maleness, because masculinity and maleness may be different, two different things, yes. As we would have said before. So I want to welcome you to theishden, the channel theishden. Please like, subscribe, share, and invite the varying men, whether your son, your uncle, your nephew, your father, your grandfather, the ward who is a boy, your mentor, whoever. Invite them to the space, and like how the place can open up. We wouldn't mind doing some of these like at your churches as well. You know, having this discussion being brought to you, your conventions, your men's ministry convention. Right. We have a wide cross-sectional resources in terms of men who can come and talk the thing from a righteous perspective.
Men who can visit with you.
Yes. Men who can visit with you wherever you are. Make sure so we get that right. All right. So it's a privilege again just to share the space with my brethren. Yeah, man. He's in Montego Bay. My workplace, my church. This is the eve of Father's Day. Yes. It's not good for timestamp them thing, but it's the eve of Father's Day 2022. And he's going to be speaking to us tomorrow. But we're just beating out some things, if I can use that term. That itself has certain innuendos. But yeah, we just have the conversation and see, where we can go and how we can benefit each other. Learn, because sometimes when you're talking and we're sharing different issues, and this is a podcast style. Yeah, so this is not a program like regular TV program. This is built for social media. So I can tell Napoleon if a pin on him mic, I might drop off. Yes. And that's all right. Right? Because this is a podcast style. It's not formal TV.
Free flow.
Yeah, free flow. This is not Ian Boyne and the rest of them. God bless his soul. Yeah? So we had spoken previously about stuff like father wounds and my the young lady, from the young lady perspective, who is struggling with daddy issues. We spoke about the men themselves who go through these different kind of things. Yeah. And a lot has happened, even in the space of, because we've been maybe off for about 18 months or so. Right. And so much has changed. I'm not sure Skillibeng was a thing. Yeah. And Skeng, they were a thing when we went off. Jashi, these guys were influencers now, and as you introduce me to the statement, show me who write the songs of a nation and I don't care who write her laws. Right. So a lot has changed in terms of gender roles, masculinity, maleness, the what is out there now in the popular space.
Right. Binary or otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have a whole heap to talk about. We want to bring in the whole view as well, because we talk about father wounds a lot. Yeah, we're going to ease up for the father them for a little bit. And just kind of jump into the conversation looking at how mother-son relationships, since we're talking about male issues, because if most households in Jamaica are, and not just in Jamaica, but in even certain parts of the states where the black households are concerned, black communities are concerned, you have a matriarchal home, the home headed by a single mother, or a grandmother, or some other extended family member who is a female. And I believe mothers are doing a very good job, but we can't go around the issue that sometimes boys end up being wounded by their mother.
By mothers. And the female figures in their lives. The significant female figures in their lives. Absolutely. 40-something% of, in Jamaica for sure, of the homes are headed by women. men are present in some relation with the mother in a kind of serial monogamy or serial presence, sometimes in other models too. So we have to recognize that and bring it into the conversation, because that too is important.
Yep.
And the fact too that most of the households in Jamaica, not everybody has the same surname in that mix.
Yeah.
The reality is, for most families in Jamaica, certainly here in Jamaica, and I suspect too for the Caribbean and a big part of Black America, it is maybe 3 or 4 different surnames in the family setting. We're talking about blended family, but not in the classic way that we hear about blended family, but more in the sense of man 1 come, have a child, man 2, man 3, man 4 come, and so on. And to the varying reasons why these children are brought about. And that too, we have to be a part of the conversation.
Yeah. And what does, apart from the like in our settings, they hear the big thing of don't spoil the rod and spare the child, and the physical abuse that often goes on. Does that kind of play, because again, this is based on Jamaica, St. Catherine under curfew or SOE or whatever else. I've heard the narrative that the quickness of mothers to beat their boys feeds the violence narrative. Like it informs, encode that this is a way to solve your problem. Right. And again, mothers don't. So we're not try throw the acid for you. We're not trying to defame you or nothing like that. We're just having a conversation, right? But does that really and truly inform?
It does. And again, just as Bobby said, we want to say maximum respect.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Many of you moms have had to carry this journey pretty much by yourself. Many of you have had to take some fathers before the family court. And so on. And many of these men, their friends are the very people who are supposed to serve the summons. So we understand that. What is true, though, is a big part of your frustration has been taken out on the youth. Him get labeled, you're black like your pop. You're coming just like him, and he gets the heat of the fact that the father is not present. And very often that outworking creates a lot of what we're seeing in our culture today. And we can't ignore it. And again, it's not to say that our sisters are not doing well, but we have to recognize a part of the dynamic of our Caribbeanness, and certainly here in Jamaica, that has been the reality, that our women have beaten up on our boys from very early. Yeah,
we're still celebrating, even though I understand the intent behind it. I don't like the way it's phrased. My mother who fathers me. Yeah, so we honor the mothers who have had to play the role, or try their very best to play the role of being a father. But
and respectfully, mothers really can't father.
That's obviously like the intent, but not necessarily.
Because there are just some things that only a male can give to a boy, and some things a male can give to a girl, and we understand those dynamics. Just by the process of socialization and all of that. And we're not to dismiss it, and we're not to come Mother's Day try to celebrate women as though they were fathers, and come Father's Day try to celebrate women in that sense at all. It's not healthy, and it's feeding into a negative and a dangerous narrative, not only about sex and sexuality issues, but critically about how gender is helping to inform the formation of the culture. And if we don't have some clarity, it will just cause the problem that we're facing in the Caribbean here in Jamaica to exacerbate.
Yeah, and as I said, I think the last 2 years we have been thrown forward. I'd say by 5 years, at least 5 years, maybe 10 years into the future. And there are some things Just in the same way we dealt with the woman who is locked up at home now with the husband or the man who she really can't take, or the abusive male. We have to look on the children as well, who were out of school for the last, the better part of 2 years. Yeah. And they were left in this situation, isolated with the frustrated mother, and even now more than before, because economically she's struggling, all these kind of things. She has her own emotional stuff dealing with, and the boy can't go nowhere. Yeah. She go back home in better day. You can, if you go out on the street, like we used to do, make sure you reach home from mama reach home. But this wounding, it became a bit inescapable. The youth would be able to go to school, and while at school he knows that this is maybe 8 hours out of the home, out of mommy's presence. I'll deal with this when I get back home. But then that reality is removed. I was removed for almost 2 years, and he had to be there. He had to listen to these kind of things. What are some of the don't want to use the word manifestation too churchy, but yeah, what are some of the ways, the expressions of the young boy who is wounded by mommy? Does it manifest the same way as the father wound? We know the father wound situation and how that may inform a young man to act and behave a particular way. But how does he? Does it skew his relationship with females? What do we look for?
It does. One of the things that some of the studies are showing too, Bobby, is how that relationship has impacted some of our boys to such an extent that they're not sure again about their gender identity and who they are as men and what men and maleness ought to represent for them. And we see that also playing out in the gang relationships. And we see that as well playing out in initiation too. In some as just some of the things that some of these boys are expected to do to become a part of the gang. And also what the Don looks like in the gang. Sometimes our notion of the Don is quite different from his reality in terms of his own sexual identity, his sexual orientation, his sexual expression, and all of that. And that again comes out in those formative stages in terms of what is taking place in the mother-son relationship in particular. And how more and more and more of our boys are admitting that the way I am expressing myself has a lot to do with how my mother treated me. How my mother beat on me, how my mother made me feel less than, how my mother disempowered me, how my mother abused me pretty much. No, we sometimes glamorize it. We tend to glamorize it because it's mother, and mother is in our culture remains sacrosanct no matter what mother has done. For the 9 months I've cherished you growing inside of me. And it's absolutely true. But what happens when that child comes out of that 9 months in the womb to know having to work through and live out with mother those other realities? And too many of our boys have reported pained, hurt, damaged by mother.
We've been saying, and I know we did it before, gender, sexuality, and these things are different. Give me a working definition for some of these key terms. Because if you're going to talk about gender identity, it's crucial to know.
Absolutely. So when we talk about sex, we're basically talking about what you are biologically. And we know that since the fall, there is no... We're almost in a kind of continuum in that sense. But biologically, it's male and female. Gender is more the social construct in which we find ourselves, and society says this is what maleness should look like, and this is what femaleness should look like as biological realities, but how society expects these realities to work themselves out. So gender is defined in that way. Now the gender orientation now talks about where your leaning is in terms of how you express yourself. And so you'll hear, for instance, a boy look like a sissy, behave like a sissy. That is more how gender is being expressed, not now in terms of him what he is biologically, but how society sees himself working his sexuality, his sexual identity, orientation. Again, is on a continuum to male, to male female, to male female, male female, and a whole range in between. So in terms of how people express themselves in there. But as well, there were some things that were generally defined as let's say, male domain, doctor and all of that. Women are coming in more and more into those professions, and nurse men are now coming into that profession, tearing down that divide that says the particular sexuality. Women were supposed to be nurses, and men were supposed to be doctors. And again, those gender distinctions are being removed. And I would say, thankfully so. But there has to be a line at which we recognize some important demarcations and how to understand them. When we go, for instance, Hollywood now is a whole different ball game in terms of how some of our role models see themselves and understand themselves, and are impacting the binary and the non-binary notions of what it means to be male and female and all of that. In sections of the states and in other places, we are now being told that we have to be careful what we put on people's birth certificates in terms of male and female and all of that. That's a conversation we must have and we must bring to the table as Christians, trying to navigate these very, very sensitive issues in this time.
I was going to ask you to give us a biblical, if you can say, model of what gender should be. But as I spoke, I remember Usain Bolt being chastised for saying he was having twin boys by a certain country, journalists in a certain country, because they are saying, how can he be so backward? So before the children are born,
he's determining that.
To say, I'm having twin boys. So it's that kind of pressure that sometimes these guys have to bear because, again, of the fluidity or seeming fluidity
in the culture.
In the culture.
There are several models the Bible seems to present. Obviously, the Genesis model is pretty simple and pretty clear. The Genesis 1, Genesis 2 model, male and female in terms of sexual identity biologically, and how that works out. Problem with Old Testament is much of it is patriarchal in terms of so it becomes a matter of power and control in that patriarchal frame. Even though we see some women breaking the
stepping up.
Miriam is described as one of the leaders of Israel, for instance. Deborah, who herself was a strong leader. Esther, how she emerged and all that. Different women who have taken, as it were, the bull by the horn, a very masculine concept in that sense, and that's very good. But generally in Old Testament, we don't see the recognition of equality in the way that we'd like to see it more normalized. It is the New Testament that brings a new narrative, especially the concept that Paul brought in Galatians. There's neither male nor female, and so on and so on. And a kind of leveling of the playing field certainly in terms of the salvific component. That is not to say we are any less male or female, but in the sense of understanding ourselves in a broader context of how God sees us in that sense. And then again, I think it is Ephesians, where he talks about mutual submission, even though some churches still read the text not at submitting yourselves to one another, but wives submit yourselves to husbands. Rather than earlier on, where it talks about submit yourselves to one another. So those concepts and an understanding that we need to go back and look again at just what God intended in terms of the sexes, and also in terms of gender. As well, we have to bear in mind that there are just some things in terms of how God expects men, male, to function in terms of gender, and how women should function in respect to gender, because it is still true that women are the ones who bear the pregnancy, even though we are now hearing the couple saying we are pregnant.
Yeah.
You know, it is still the woman who bears the pregnancy, and the implications that come with that. We have not yet gone to that stage of contemplating men becoming pregnant, you know, and all of that. So we have to be cognizant of some of these realities and how the biblical narrative informs that aspect of socialization.
Yeah. And again, we're still looking at the whole mother wounding of the boy, but we're just trying to give an understanding of gender, what gender should look like, if we can say should, as if we are making a prescriptive statement, and how it may be derailed by the abuse. Scripture, I came across it, and maybe I'm pushing the handle a little bit. You are a better exegete and hermeneutic student than I am. So just looking at Rachel and Benjamin's situation, and how, if we can allegorize the situation, Rachel, when she bore the boy in Genesis 35, and as her soul was departing, for she was dying, she called his name Ben-Oni. Yeah, which means, could mean son of my strength, but it most believe that it means son of my sorrow. And then the father comes along and called him Benjamin, which is son of my right hand. So it's this not wanting this name, Jabez, this you know, sorrow to plague this child. The father intervened for whatever reason.
And rename him.
Yeah. And we are saying that sometimes, like your old pa, when you know, go along where this stinking, dirty nigger, dirty drunkard, and these kind of...
Say that in English as well, Bobby. Because
oh, yes. I'm sorry. Why don't you go where the dirty crow is? You know? But it's this burdening and labeling of our boys in a way that does not uplift them at all, does not add value to them.
Right. It's true. A lot of our boys have been told some horrible things. I've been told some horrible things by my mom. And as I've grown, I've felt that she has spoken out of her own frustration, out of her own pain. And I saw a piece of literature some times ago that suggests that this was what she knew and how she felt she could encourage you to be better. And
interesting.
And some people have kind of worn it as a kind of badge of honor that this is the best my mother could do. This is the best way she could tell me to be better. You're junker, you're black like your pie, you're not come out to no good. And those negative statements were intended as negative as they sounded, were intended as positive reinforcement, not to be like, not to end up like, and so on. What is the result? Many of our boys have had that record playing, stuck in that frame, in their heads, and have never crossed over.
True.
They remain with deep issues of self-esteem. They remain with deep feelings of damaged self-worth, and still struggle with their identity. Who am I? You know? And then now, to find a way of working it through, many of our boys, and I think it was Dr. Davidson who talks about our boys, instead of crying tears, end up crying bullets. And it's a continued wounding of our culture because of the pain that has been and was inflicted on our boys at an early age. So they have all this anger and rage locked up because of how they were treated, especially by their mother, where there has been an absent father. And she doesn't know where to turn, and she doesn't know what to do. And all of this comes tumbling down on a boy who is really innocent. I guess someone argued that mom too was innocent, in that she too was victimized.
Yes.
But that's the thing, it's a victimizing of others by victims themselves.
The cycle.
And there's a cycle of the continued victimization in the home, and especially when boys are victimized. We get books like Men at Risk. We get these narratives that our boys are failing. We get these narratives that paint and constantly paint our boys in the unhealthy frame, and also reinforced culturally within the school system. For instance, the education system itself is not designed generally for the success of our boys. The social structures as well are not designed for the boy to succeed.
Yeah.
Let's see what's happening in our universities. Who are the boys? Why are the boys dropping out? These are the boys who still have to stay home to take care of family, because there's a notion that the girl will do better if she gets an education.
Yeah.
And the boy must stay home and do the hustling, and the boy must go on the road and wash the windscreen.
Yeah.
And the boys are the one who get sent out by the Don, and he must come back with X amount of money by the end of the day and all of that, while the girls will do some other things and go to school.
Yeah.
You know, so we have those narratives, a part of the culture, a part of the subculture, that keeps the boy bound, keeps him angry, keeps him disoriented in many ways, and in some instances just not sure of where he fits into this picture. And the mother can't offer him help, can't offer him hope, and he tries to find it elsewhere. That's a part of the narrative.
So I'm in church, good Christian youth. Man, I read no bullets, man, I cry no bullets, nothing.
Yeah.
And because I've never heard before that my mother is even capable of wounding me.
Yeah.
Yes, I believe my mother is a goddess.
Yeah.
Right? I am supposed to always honor my mother, always ensure that she is well. I work so that my mother's life can be better.
Right.
How would I identify any mother wound?
Yeah.
I grew up in a construct where, the things you're talking about, but my mother beat me because she loved me.
Yeah.
My mother said them stuff here and me use it. I use it as a fuel to
be better.
Yeah, to be better, to propel me
Right.
forward. How am I being set back, and what would I need to look for to identify? Maybe I need to talk to just a bridging.
But here's the part of the thing, Bobby, that we have not admitted that we are hurting. You know? And it's one of the hardest things for men to say, I'm hurting.
Yeah.
The most we will do is say, I feel away.
Straight up.
You know? Because to admit hurt is to admit failure, to admit insufficiency. And so we have to take men back to the place that says, yes, my mother beat me for some things.
Yeah.
First of all, I don't know if that thing I should be beaten for. Yeah? Can we admit that we get some beating from mom that we shouldn't have gotten? And maybe some of us might just need to go back to the graves of our mothers, or go back to our mothers and say, Mom, let's have a conversation about this. So we can open a dialogue that says, I was hurt, but we're not willing to admit hurt. Secondly, we want as well not to admit and to have the conversation about hurt, but also to be able to identify that, because I am hurt, I myself become the purveyor of hurt.
Yeah.
So, how am I hurting myself? I hurt myself by some of the choices I make. Because I have not been empowered and freed from the hurt that I'm suffering. And consequently, I become a vehicle of hurt to others around me. And sometimes I don't even realize how toxic I am, because nobody has really sat me down and said to me, hey, let's process that hurt that has been inflicted on you, and that you now have been passing on to others because you have not processed it. And thirdly, we just need to re-educate a generation of men about male hurt, because unless we begin to identify properly and unless we begin to work through our own hurt issues, guess what? Those seeds planted, those things that have grown and blossomed and mushroomed and so on, they're going to continue, Bob.
Yeah.
They're going to continue. And I think that's why the culture is the way it is, especially in respect to male hurt and male pain, particularly not now by absent father, but by present mom, you know? It's a big part of the conversation. I know it's a difficult one. I know it's not something we want to talk about. I know it's difficult to even raise, because so what she must do?
Yeah.
What she for do? As she want to grow the boy, what she for do? She do the best she can. What she for do? But as well, the male presence is not there to give certain things to the boy. So what exactly is she to do? There's no Sunday school to send him. He don't want to go anyways.
And Sunday schools are mainly taught by
women anyways. Yeah?
So, yeah.
And that's a part of the problem too. And how do we redefine some of those spaces for male presence, meaningful and healthy male presence, to begin to make the difference? We have to then go back to our churches, for instance, and see if we can, redesign their Sunday school space.
Yeah.
For there to be male and female present as Sunday school teachers for this particular class.
And for the learning experience itself as well,
and for the learning
facilitate, because male and females learn differently. You know, I think the kinesthetic learning, which is largely a boy thing. You know, you want to get him hands in the thing. You want to see how this salvation thing you tell him about. How does it really? Yeah, you know. So I think that is there. Not a spin, because I've observed more younger mothers who may be more educated and are not the type to beat and to talk down to. But there's something that I noticed, and I said it to somebody, that I find young single mothers, maybe especially those who are called millennials or whatever else, they tend to be easily manipulated by their sons, because and the boys know it. And there is this, I don't want to call it overprotection, but there is this overprotection. He's not allowed to explore the quote-unquote wildness in his heart, because no, come down from the grill. All him do is step on a building block. Don't step on the building block.
Drop.
Yeah, you know, this kind of, it's good for the nurture. And I think that's where the father and the mother in the house is good. Because the father is there to say, no man, I'm good. You know, understanding that aspect of his existence. Yeah. But the mother now, who is now preventing him from exploring.
The nurturer is invariably wanting to try to save the boy from hurt and injury. And it's a cocooning of the emotions and cocooning of the boy, so much so that he can't break out to become the butterfly. You know, and many of our boys have never evolved to full maturation.
Yeah.
And that is why, Bobby, we still see some of our men in nappies, because they don't want to wear their trousers.
True.
It's down their asses and all kinds of crazy things, because they have not yet evolved to function properly in the social context. You know, they've been so wounded, so cocooned by so much that the evolution and transformation that should have taken place didn't. Yeah. And they don't even recognize it.
Yeah. And I'm now looking, again, just looking at the ideal church man who should be married by 28. Yeah. And, you know, employed, responsible. No, this young boy has not worked through the mommy issues. Right. Yeah, because again, we are saying it's oftentimes spoken about that, you know, what the father does is apparent. Yeah. But this young boy, mommy can't do me nothing. Mommy didn't hurt me, but yet still he is wounded. Yes. And now gets into this relationship. We spoke about the deformed gender identity, the other deformities, and the never evolving, as you say, into the butterfly, the one who now has transitioned, the bar mitzvah happened,
Right.
you know,
Yes.
my and daddy out there. It's just mommy, the nurturing kind of vibes. And I'm now supposed to survive. Not just survive, but thrive.
Thrive. That's the
In
word.
a relationship, in a marriage.
And bring transformation to a context that they were never taught what personal transformation looks like. And true too for Christians, never taught what transformation looks like. And so we become church people living out church narratives rather than being transformed by the power of the gospel of Jesus.
Yeah.
You know, it is a tragedy.
Yeah.
It's a real tragedy.
How do we, as a people, help the process, the healing process? What do we do? It's a conversation that needs to start. I believe in, we're talking to the church, hopefully, but in every sphere. But in our context as pastors, young youth minister, how do we now begin to at least unearth? There's a young man that I oftentimes get the opportunity to speak to as I drop him home.
Right.
And some of the conversations that he bring up, I love the fact, really love the fact that he constantly asks me about how do I do this? How do I mend this? Recently asked, do you think it's necessary to go to therapy if you have unresolved issues? Because his mother passed away and he didn't used to visit a lot and that kind of thing. And he believes that there are some issues there that's keeping him back, primarily where relationship is concerned, or relationships are concerned, whether platonic or getting involved with somebody. So how do we create this space?
You know what would be good, Bobby? One of the things I think would be very useful, take a handful of millennial mothers, single mothers, and ask them, sit with them and ask them, how are you working through this process of raising this boy by yourself? And I think we'll hear a whole heap of stuff that we as church need to hear properly and need to understand properly, so that we can be more relevant to these young women. That's critical. Two, how do we help some of these sisters to break the cycle of hurt and hurting because it's a part of our reality in community? Yeah. And how do we not, how do I say this? How do we not spiritualize realities confronting people in an unhealthy kind of way? Because, you know, we Jesus everything. Jesus is my husband and all kind of things our sisters tend to talk about, to work through some of their own issues. And I think too, we need to cause church to become a safe space for the boy to tell us that his mother is hurting him. Yeah. And not be afraid of the repercussions, because the community becomes safe enough for him to say, I don't mean to beat up on my mom. I don't mean to say she's not a good mom. Yeah. But mom, the choices that you have made, the things that you have said for me, when you push me in my head, so how it impacted me as a boy. We don't talk about it, but it has sent a message and has wired me in a particular way to respond to something. And if we begin to have those conversations, Bobby, I think it will help us to change a lot of what's happening in this country. I think so.
Yeah, I'm for sure. And you would have heard some of the secular people, Herbert Gill, I think, who spoke about it, and it did
and
not,
the backlash that came at him. Met
with any kind. People didn't even stop to think.
How got something like that?
You know,
he did the research.
And I think, you know, it's definitely the church space that can, the only place where the gospel of Jesus Christ can transform a person as a person is within the church.
Absolutely.
You know, it's not out there anywhere. I recommend physiotherapy, psychotherapy. I recommend physiotherapy as well. But psychotherapy and thing. But I do believe in a real sense that those of us who are in the space of Jesus Christ, the new community formed around Jesus Christ, we have this tool, slightening it, but we have the power. Paul says he's not ashamed of the power of the gospel. Yes? So we have this transformative mechanism within the church. But we oftentimes stop at in the name of Jesus Christ or the blood of Jesus Christ.
And that's a weakness of, if I may, evangelicalism, that it is just about soul rather than about the transformation. You see, Jesus taught his disciples about let your kingdom come. And kingdom means just that. The transformation of the full and entire individual. So that we just don't see us saving a soul. We see ourselves as transforming a life. And unless we begin to have that kind of conversation, a lot of the problems are going to persist in the way that we see them in the culture.
Definitely something that you have to look at. And we're going to continue to speak. Again, I want to apologize, females. We're not beating up on females. We're not trying to make this a gender war kind of thing. But we are moving towards some level of reconciliation with God ultimately. But, you know, within the reconciliation with God, there needs to become a reconciliation with self and with the issues that we are facing. And we believe and we want this space as well to be something that opens the conversation, if nothing
safe enough for everybody to participate. Absolutely.
So if you're watching on YouTube, I'm begging you, I'm asking you as a matter of fact, to, as Mr. Like, subscribe, and share. Send it out to persons so they can become a part of the conversation and they can help us as well to see stuff that we may not see. We got some very, very good comments.
We have.
And, you know, we have had different conversations with persons when we were doing this before we stopped. Very, very good conversations. People said, listen, I've been 50 odd years and I've never ever heard it presented like this. I've never had to come to terms with this in myself. So we want to keep the space open for that. Before we close off this segment, two things that I think this issue needs to move forward, at least to begin the conversation.
One, getting those who know that they have been hurt to admit, my mom hurt me. And that does not diminish mom in any way, shape, or form. But if we can do that, we can begin to plant the positive seeds of transformation just by admitting that, I was hurt. Secondly, can we offer forgiveness to mom? Can we say, Mom, you have hurt me. We're not going to bury stuff. We're taking it out and seeking for resolution so that we know what is happening and we know what to do. And thirdly, that we know what not to do so that it stops somewhere and a new narrative begins. So that's a frame we'd like to take it from. We also want to say to church has power that others don't. Church gets to see people at their most intimate in many respects. And can church also be a space in which we talk more intentionally about healing the wounds inflicted by mothers, offering hope to those who have been so damaged and wounded, and help them to come to a space of understanding, come to a space of just stopping the thing where it is and helping them to see how better to live this out.
You heard it from the man himself, Pastor Black, Napoleon. Say something else to say?
No, go on.
Okay, that's what it's like. All right, so we're going to break the conversation here, and we're going to come back again, continuing to look, because we do believe that women have been the stalwarts who kept the family going and kept a lot of us alive. But we just want to look at maybe something that we may have overlooked. How have we been wounded by females in our lives? And we have to begin with mommy. You know, we have to begin there. But we're going to come back pretty soon with another conversation on this. Until then don't forget, please like, share, and subscribe. Alright, so this is Robert signing out with Napoleon, and we'll soon come back with another installment of Ishden.